All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wicked New England, your favorite podcast on YouTube. Even if it isn't, you're going to tell me it's your favorite, because that's what I want to hear. Okay? Okay. My co-hosts.
John.
Anthony.
These guys rock. All right? All right, so tonight what we're going to bring you guys is actually some of our top 10 things, if you will. So I've actually asked everybody to prepare a top 10 list of sorts, whatever category they wanted. Doesn't matter. We're not all going to rate the same things. So, let's kick it off. John?
So, I decided to do my top 10 Assassin's Creed games. Now, this is just how I was feeling in the moment writing it.
The heat of the moment.
The heat of the moment. Subject to change, but I took some careful consideration in the moment. So, my number one, or should I start with 10 down?
However you want. I'm going to do 10 down, but you don't have to.
I'm going to do 10 down. So my number 10, before I offend anyone, by the way, I might have some weird things, weird placement, but...
You should never offend anybody when it comes to a video game. It's your opinion. Theirs doesn't matter.
That's a good point. I don't care if I offend...
You're the one playing the game.
Yeah.
It's like the last meals, right? Like, wouldn't it be weird if, like, you thought my top 10 list was better than your top 10 list? For favorite video games,
really
that would be,
you know.
That's
why I found it really weird when you guys gave me a high score for my last meal. But that's a reference to a different video.
Something he's never gonna forget.
So that was actually really awe-inspiring.
The one time he got a win.
My number 10 is the original Assassin's Creed. It has to be on there as a respect to the start of the series. However, does it hold up to today's gameplay styles? I just don't feel like it does as well. But moving on, number 9, the one that I'm currently playing through, Valhalla. Now, Valhalla, I did have to change the settings around just to make me feel more like an assassin, which is the whole point of the series, Assassin's Creed. So I changed the settings, that way it's guaranteed assassinations and the hood is always on. That just makes me feel better while playing. But the RPG styles of the newer games, I'm just not a huge fan of. I really liked the creative decisions they had made in the past. But regardless, number 8, I have Origins. The story of Origins, I absolutely love. The setting, having it in Egypt, the main character, Bayek, honestly, I thought that was fantastic. However, that did start the whole RPG element. Online, that's really what they call it. I know all of them are role-playing to a certain extent. But these newer games, a lot of people online call them the RPG games. Origins was the start of that, and that's why it's ranked kind of lower on the list. However, story-wise, they didn't miss a beat. They really didn't. They did a great job putting the game together. Now 7, this is the controversial one, Brotherhood. I enjoyed Brotherhood for what it was, but in terms of the Ezio trilogy, that was the weakest link for me. Not a bad game. I mean, granted, I've played almost all of the games. I think Rogue and Mirage are the only two that I haven't played. Valhalla I'm in the middle of, but Brotherhood was still a good game. Next we have Syndicate. Now Syndicate, gameplay-wise, I thought they really did some great things, especially with the stealth. The setting and the stealth was really cool. The only thing is traversal for me. What I found annoying is that it was reliant too heavily on the grappling hook and carriages. However, it makes sense for the setting. So that's just more of a personal gripe, if you could even call it that. Still, fantastic game. Next is Revelations. So Revelations is the last in the Ezio trilogy. I loved the outfits, I loved the setting, and I of course loved the hook blade. The hook blade was just so cool to me, and being able to...
He wants one in reality.
I would love one. If anyone knows where to get a hidden blade, especially Connor's, just throwing that out there, please put the link in the comments. Please.
Take my money.
Yes. So next we have 2. Ezio really doesn't need an introduction. If you play Assassin's Creed, you know Ezio. Fantastic game, fantastic story. The only reason why it's not higher on the list is because towards the end, when you have to start collecting all the pages, that gets a little bit repetitive. But overall, the story is fantastic, and I kind of like that more personal story. So next, number 3 on the list is Assassin's Creed 3. This is actually the game that got me into the series. I love the setting. Absolutely love the setting. The story, fantastic again. But this is the one that got me into the series. My first Assassin's Creed, I remember when I first got the game, and you start off as Haytham, I was completely blown away when you find out that he's a Templar. Which, I guess, spoiler alert for a game that's been out for a lot.
I don't think it's a
many
spoiler
years.
at this point, John.
But yeah, I thought I went crazy when I found out, and I just was blown away. Now, of course, number 2, Assassin's Creed 4: Black Flag. This is the game that I probably played the most, or at least got the highest percentage of extras. I loved sailing around, but my favorite thing about the game were the pistol swords. When I got those, I think it was the naval contracts that you have to complete. When I first got those, that was it. The rest of the time playing that game, I used the pistol swords, because that was the most badass thing that I had ever seen to that point. You know, imagine a slightly shorter, voice cracking John seeing the pistol swords.
This is so great, guys!
That's exactly what I sounded like, actually.
Prepubescent John.
That was the coolest thing to me, and to be fair, if I had pistol swords in real life, I think I would find it just as cool.
He would be an assassin.
Not without the hidden blade that you guys can help me find. And my number 1 is Unity. I know when it launched, a lot of people had some problems with it. However, the reason why it's ranked so highly is number 1, it's the one that I've gone back to the most. I've gone back to that game even just to run around in Paris the most. Number 2, the fact that, you get to be in both large crowd settings where you can have that social stealth, as well as the more intimate interior levels, and it being the first Assassin's Creed where you can actually crouch at any time, not just in bushes. A lot of the new developments in the game just really keep drawing me back. I think that new version of stealth, that new flashy style of parkour, as well as the flashy assassinations, that's really what draws me in for that game. So overall, that's why I have to put it at number 1, just to show respect to the game that I've gone back to so many times.
Okay, fair enough. So, is it the parkour style gameplay that you don't really like from the original Assassin's Creed?
So, for the original Assassin's Creed, it's a little bit slower than what I like. Especially
have you ever
the
tried Prince of Persia?
No, but I want to really bad, because
it's a good one to compare it to. Comparatively. But that, yeah.
Now, the thing about Prince of Persia, when they were initially making Assassin's Creed, with Prince of Persia, according to Ubisoft, of course, a lot of levels were based around the parkour. It was more of a puzzle to figure out where to go.
Jump to where to go, yeah.
With Assassin's Creed, they wanted to bring that over to a more open world setting. And then when they made Assassin's Creed 2, they said, okay, let's focus on taking what we have with Assassin's Creed 1 and just making it more fun. So that's why the parkour is a little bit faster. You have more options with the parkour, and to a certain degree, you almost have a little bit more control in that puppeteering type of gameplay.
Fair enough. It's a pretty solid list, all in all. I'd say, you definitely love your Assassin's Creed. That's evident in that. So, moving on to our next one. Anthony, why don't you break this up? Because otherwise we're going to have 2 video games back to back.
Well,
so
under the circumstances that we just did this on the fly, and I'm not going to say this in any particular order, my mind drew to a total blank. Then this one here decided, why don't you talk about rock bands of the 80s? And alright, fine. I managed to come up with 10 names of rock bands of the 1980s. And what better way for me to figure that out? Because I am an 80s child. I grew up when MTV was a thing, and they actually played music videos on MTV back then.
John doesn't know what that's about. They were already onto hip hop and past rock by the time John started watching MTV.
And cutting the videos down to nothing to what they are now. Anyway, as far as bands go, in no particular order, I'm going with Bon Jovi. Good classic New York boys, or actually Jersey boys. Jersey boys, because, why not? They're well known. They've done songs to movie soundtracks. I've also gone
played in movies.
Yes. Bon Jovi has played in movies. U5. What was that one?
Oh, he was in the.
No, wait.
I don't know if he was in that one. He was in the Western movie, though. Was it not Young Guns? It was another one he was in. But he was also in Vampires de los Muertos too, another horror movie. He was in I think one of the Dusk Till Dawn movies too.
That I don't remember.
Yeah. So he's been in a few.
He's been in a few. I've also added Guns N' Roses to this list.
Absolutely.
You can't turn around and talk about 80s music bands without mentioning Guns N' Roses. Classic songs, some of them in film as well. Not to mention classic music videos, going back to the MTV thing. I mean,
oh yeah,
they had some great videos back then. You are not going to find better music videos than what they had in the 80s.
But going back to Guns N' Roses too, definitely Team Slash. Axl's a dick. Just want to put that out there. Axl, if you're hearing this, I hope you do. You're a dick.
And he's also jealous because I got to see them all collectively get together peacefully for the Guns N' Roses.
I am only salty
not
because
in this lifetime
Axl
tour.
Rose is the reason for a riot in Montreal at a Metallica show because Axl Rose's bitch ass wouldn't go on stage for an extra hour. So he said screw it and left the show, leaving the fans without a show after James got burned from the pyro.
Yeah,
so
I get that.
Us Metallica fans will forever say that Axl is a dick.
And that leads me to the next band that I was going to mention, Metallica. Everybody knows Metallica. Everybody loves Metallica. We actually had them recently perform up here our way, actually.
At Stadium.
And, of course, I didn't get to see the show. I wish I did. Of course, I also didn't even realize they were playing at Gillette Stadium either, but so it goes. Also on my list is classic 80s music, Scorpions. Scorpions, for me, have always had a nice vibe to them. They've always had that nice vibe, nice tone to it. I don't know why.
They got good guitar, that's for sure. Decent vocals. Yeah.
Also on my list is Motley Crue. Classic rock. Everybody loves Motley Crue. I think
Shout at the devil.
we love Shout at the Devil, and but anybody that has ever been in an exotic dance club, you all know the song Girls, 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 because I guarantee you they've played the song.
Every strip club.
Also making this list is Van Halen. And my
also
question,
played in probably every strip club,
yes.
to be fair.
But my question, probably not so much to John, because I don't even think he would know where or who these guys are, but who are you, Andrew, a fan of?
Oh, Jesus. Are we going to say David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
Yep.
Well, I like them both, but if I had to choose one, get rid of the other, then I would say David Lee Roth. But, but I do think they still put out some decent music during the Van Hagar years. But, yes, David Lee Roth would definitely be, he's the original. That's it.
Yeah, he is.
He is the band.
And David Lee Roth also did have his own album.
Mm-hmm.
He did do...
But I will say this, Sammy Hagar is a better solo performer than David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
I'll give him that much. On his own, he accomplished more than what David Lee Roth did.
But as an honorable mention, I wanted to mention that David Lee Roth did go on to do his own album where he did 2 remakes of 2 songs. And because I mentioned MTV, if you go back and watch these music videos, in the proper order is California Girls and the name just flipped out of my mind. I believe it was Just a Gigolo. Check them out. I swear it's good to watch. It's actually entertaining to watch the videos.
Yeah, the California Girls remix is actually really good. I did enjoy that a lot.
Also on my list is Def Leppard. Classic band.
I've seen them 4
A
times.
lot of history behind the band. I've always loved Def Leppard. Great songs. Can't not go without Def Leppard in my opinion.
No, we're talking 80s. Def Leppard's in the conversation. It's got to be. Even if you're not a fan of like hair metal or glam rock, Def Leppard's got to be there. I mean, they were one of the highest selling bands of the 80s. I mean, not that that should mean popularity, but everybody knew who Def Leppard was. They were everywhere.
Also on my list, and though it's not really so much 80s, I would actually put this more as 70s, would be the Rolling Stones. Classic music. The main reason why I think they're on my list is because back in the 80s, possibly early 90s, you had a lot of movies coming out where it was more of a Vietnam era. And some of the songs that you would always hear in the movie would be Rolling Stones related. So that kind of stuck with me, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm turned on by the Rolling Stones so much with certain songs. There's certain songs that just take me right to like a certain viewpoint of a
That's kind of how
Vietnam
I feel
film.
about these guys right here. Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Well, even
definitely.
if you are a fan of
Definitely.
Mafia movies, then you definitely know the Rolling Stones because they always appear in Mafia movies. Almost always, I guess.
And a little side note on a movie, if you're going to link movies to Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger was actually a star in a movie co-starring with Emilio Estevez in a movie called Free Jack.
Yep.
1992, I believe that movie was.
Sounds about right.
And for my number one choice, even though they did start off a little bit before the 80s, going back to like the music video aspect, they had some very unique music videos. And also, it's probably one of the music artists who had, in my opinion, the best vocals of all.
I think
And
that's
that would
actually
be,
been determined too. Like he was.
yeah, he very solid. My band would be Queen. I've always been fascinated with Freddie Mercury
best
with the
rock
vocals.
vocalist, yeah,
Absolutely.
of all time.
By all times, that's my personal favorite. That's the reason why I had to save that one as number one, though.
Yeah, no, that's a solid choice for sure. Like I said, best rock vocalist. Hands
Yes.
down. I don't think any rock fan would even dispute that. Like,
I don't even think a lot of the rock
You know what I
artists
mean?
would dispute
You know,
that.
it's really funny. So, a really close friend of mine, we've talked about music on many occasions. So I listen to a lot of older music. Like, if you ask me, you know, go-to artist, more likely than not, it's going to be from the 50s or 60s. However, whenever my friend and I talk about music, even though we have extremely different music tastes for the most part, we know we can steer the conversation back to a better light whenever either of us bring up Bohemian Rhapsody. He likes a lot of modern stuff, I like a lot of older stuff. Sometimes we'll disagree on things, and then one of us will go, yeah, but Bohemian Rhapsody is one of the best songs of all time.
At least
Just-
you guys have the self-consciousness to bring yourself back together on
It's the
track.
common
so you're
ground.
not-
Always.
So you're not punching each other and getting aggravated. You know, it's not the way to go.
all right, folks. So I guess what's good for the goose. And so the top 10 list I prepared was actually top 10 games that I've played post-COVID or post-pandemic. So some of these games did come out before the pandemic. These are just when I got around to playing them. Okay, so like I had a lot more time to game and so forth. So counting down from number 10, I'm going to go with Alan Wake 2, which was a pretty recent one. Very solid storytelling, very in-depth, gripping like visuals, if you will. If you like that sort of horror, murder mystery kind of thing, this is going to be right in your wheelhouse. Great game to play. Lots of clue finding, searching around in the dark and like flashlights and stuff like that. Lots of shadows and lots of cool textures and stuff like that. Really cool horror game. Next after that down the list, I have Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I know not John's favorite, but to be honest, I never played all the Assassin's Creed games. I do like Assassin's Creed, but specifically I picked this up because I've had a thing in the past few years with Vikings, so I've been like really, really into that subculture. So that's why I wanted to play that one, and regardless of even if it's a true representation of how Vikings really were or not, it's still a very fun game to play. So lots of pillaging and running around like murdering, burning stuff down. It's great. It's a good time. And then moving down after that, so we have Helldivers, which is actually one of the better multiplayer games that's come out, I think, in the last few years. Helldivers 2, and I never played Helldivers 1. So I can't honestly tell you if it was good or if it was bad because I didn't even know what it was. But then Helldivers 2 came out, obviously a lot more publicity and so forth, jumped into it and sucked in from like day one. You know what I mean? Made me want to run out and watch Starship Troopers just because like the game's so great. Killing bugs, you know what I mean? Like modifying your armor, getting bigger and better guns. I like the whole button combinations that you got to press to do certain sequences. It really increases the pressure you feel like when you're in the heat of battle, and I think that's really cool. Not too many people do that, so that one was a blast to play. Next one after that, I have Firewatch. So this one is actually a story-driven game. There's not really a whole lot like that you're doing as the player. You're making choices and then kind of leading the story as it goes, kind of thing. Like you're unfolding as you work like a park ranger tower in the middle of a national park, basically, and you're kind of alone. You speak to somebody on the radio at another watchtower, like across the range, if you will, and strange stuff is happening in the park, where there's pieces of like a tent found and like ripped up sleeping bags and like personal belongings, but it doesn't look like an animal. And then there's other clues and things like that, and it turns into like this whole murder cover-up thing, and it's just a really, really fun game if you're looking for a good story. So definitely I would say check that out. It's available on pretty much everything. I played it on the Switch. It was a good one to just casually play while you're sitting on the couch because it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to play that game. Then after that, it's Ghost of Tsushima, which amazing if you love like samurai like culture, old Japanese culture and so forth. They did that like just right. I mean, just like the way you stick somebody with a sword and like flip your blade and like the blood sprays off into the grass and actually stains the grass like blood red and stuff like that, and like it's just really cool. If you like playing as a samurai or something, I would definitely recommend that one. Hours too, like it's a very long campaign. You're going to get a lot of money and value out of that game. Resident Evil: The Village, which was also a fun one. Probably not as high on everybody's list when it comes to Resident Evil as far as that franchise goes, but different than most of the other games they do, so that's why I appreciate it. It wasn't the same thing. Definitely a fun one. Love upgrading the weapons and stuff like that, getting it back to like just kind of being fun to play, to grind. And I think Resident Evil games kind of fell away from that for like a long time, where it wasn't just like you would beat it once and you would kind of never go back through it again, but this one actually made you want to keep redoing it, so that was awesome. Then moving on, so we have The Quarry, which once again, obviously because I love horror, and this is pretty much like directing your own horror movie while also playing in it. So that is like really cool. It has starts in a summer camp, just like Friday the 13th and stuff. So it's got that vibe for me. Feels completely like a 80s horror movie, like down to a T. It's great. I definitely recommend that one. And then moving on from that, we have Hogwarts Legacy, which I'm actually still actively playing. I just purchased it on the Switch, but I already had it on the PS5. So, obviously I like that game. But if you love the Harry Potter universe, you're going to like Hogwarts. Just running around exploring is amazing for a fan, from that aspect. I mean, it's freaking beautiful. I mean, it's one of the better looking games of the year. I think it did get Game of the Year, actually. It sold more copies than any other game in 2023. Game was just freaking amazing. My only gripe, and I hope they correct it for Hogwarts 2, which they are making, is not Quidditch, which a lot of people said their biggest gripe was Quidditch, but that's actually not mine. My biggest gripe is I really want co-op, because it'd be great to run around in the side of that world with a friend and play online at the same time. That would be pretty cool to kind of add in like a MMO aspect to it, which I think would be great. That's one of the things I love most about Destiny, which moving into number 2 slot is actually Destiny 2. The Final Shape in particular, though, this latest DLC, just really reinvigorated me with everything I loved about Destiny in the first place. Like, I went a few seasons where like maybe I was hit or miss, or I didn't play, or I didn't finish it, it was okay. But like this last one, I feel like they freaking nailed it across the board. Solid 5 stars, easy. You don't get Destiny tattooed unless you really like the game. So, but no, this latest DLC really just blew my mind. It was a great way to kind of close out that storyline that they had going on, and hopefully we got some new good stuff coming in the future as well. But then even though that's number 2, and it is my favorite game, but it's number 2 as far as most fun I've had playing a game since post-pandemic, I'll say, and number 1 I'm going to go with Until Dawn. So I actually didn't pick up Until Dawn until more recently. I'd say it was probably 6 months to maybe just under a year ago, we'll say. And obviously that game had been out for some time. I actually picked it up after they remastered it for the PS5. And freaking amazing. Same deal, right? Like, as The Quarry, made from the same people, was actually the first game they made. Story is actually a little better than The Quarry, though, which is why I kind of lean more towards that one. They have Wendigos and stuff kind of as the story unfolds, so I don't want to give away everything if you've never played it, but if you want that, if you like playing horror games and you like kind of that feel of directing your own movie, you have choices to make, and your choices actually matter. I will say that there's plenty of games out there where you make choices but it doesn't really matter, the ending's still the same. There is literally hundreds of different combinations of endings you can get depending on the choices you make, so it actually counts. So for me, that was definitely my number 1. I had the most fun. I sat down there one day and played the whole thing start to finish, nonstop. And out of every game on this list, that's the only one that I actually did that with. So for those reasons alone, I have to call that like my favorite. And then just a couple of honorable mentions on there as well. I have Resident Evil 4, the HD remake. Loved the original Resident Evil 4 when it came out back in the day. Spent hundreds of hours on it then, and I spent a whole bunch of hours on it now, because I've obviously went back and redid that as well. And then Gran Turismo 7. If you like racing games, you like cars, nobody does it better than GT. It is hands down the best racing game out there. I know there's probably a lot of Xbox fanboys who are going to tell me, Forza. But, I'm sorry, Gran Turismo does it better. It's a better simulation, better feel. The cars look better, and honestly, PlayStation's better than Xbox. If you don't like it, fight me. Alright, so that's my top 10 list on that. We'll just close it. But I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to kind of add along with that.
As far as games go, you guys did lists on games. I was drawing up blanks in my mind. Games that I particularly liked and enjoyed, especially during the pandemic. When everything's in lockdown, you had nothing better to do. I was working a job where I had 3 days off a week at the time. We work 4 days or whatever, have 3 days off. 3 days off. That's way too much time, especially when you can't do anything. So,
especially in Massachusetts, I think I need to stress that. So, in the beginning of the pandemic, I lived in Florida, which everything stayed open the whole time. I still went to pool league. I still went to the bar, restaurants, whatever. Didn't matter. It was fine.
And you moved up here during pandemic.
Right. I moved up here during pandemic, and it was a whole other thing. Let me tell you what. Like, as soon as I got up here, That nope, not that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah, so as far as like playing video games go, I think I did go back to start playing Uncharted,
Nice.
the series.
Yes.
I love the series. I played all the games.
The whole
one
Nathaniel
of the
Drake.
one of the
is awesome.
one of the main reasons why I bought a PlayStation 4 is because Uncharted 4
Mm-hmm.
was for only PlayStation 4.
Yep.
I had gotten lucky when purchasing my PlayStation 4, but that's a totally different story. But one of the things that freaked me out the most regarding pandemic is shortly before there was ever a pandemic, I had purchased The Division 2.
Oh.
Which when you... Anyway, as I was saying, folks, The Division 2 was quite interesting during pandemic, especially when you're playing a video game about an outbreak pandemic. But yeah, in closing, I'm Anthony, Andrew's holding the microphone, and John's kind of like saying his, hi guys, bye. You guys all have a good night.
Yep, guys. So good
Take
night
it
from
easy.
Wicked New England. Actually, you can see all three of us here. So we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, guys.
Later.